high-ranking individuals in the Ukraine and the UK, international corporate companies' funds being directed to these individuals, child trafficking from the Ukraine to Moldova to the UK to be used in the sex trade and organ harvesting. Get ready for the expose of the century. What your evidence shows you, what your intelligence, your investigation shows you, is that children are basically being stolen from Ukraine by high-ranking individuals. They're being trafficked over to England by predominantly Albanian gangs, and individuals that are involved in this, UK and Ukraine-wise, have got filthy rich out of it during the process.
I didn't see the intelligence. I need to make that extremely clear. This was what we call a fishing expedition. So it would mean that basically we are given all the names of what we were told that possibly were involved in this. We were not told the source. We were not told anything else. And our job was to put it forward to the National Crime Agency through relevant sources. And I agreed to the job because one of the reporters that I know was involved with the spook, which is the undercover operative that was in Ukraine, so lots of intelligence was coming his way. He was the link. He asked me not to put him out there first of all, so I went in cold because I wasn't involved. If you know what I'm trying to say? The whole point of trying to stay alive in this game of being a journalist is some people have information, some people don't. I did not have the intelligence. So my job was just to put in the information and to see what happened when it went in and who would do what. So there is a global operation of freelance journalists are not on the books with anybody, and they don't get funded or paid, so it keeps them off book. Okay, and basically they get given information, quite a lot of information. Some people take it on, some people don't, because it's extremely dangerous. Okay, so certain journalists brought some information to me but wouldn't give me the intelligence behind it, and it was regards to an operation that was involving an agency in the UK, seemingly MI6, an operative from there, an operative from the Foreign Office, and also some paratroopers that were involved that worked in an organisation in the UK. However, when we looked into those people, first of all, we realised that 10 years ago, none of them had got any money at all, and then now they've all got organisations and quite high ranking within companies. They also have huge links to UK USAID and social services and websites out in Ukraine and the rebuild of Ukraine, because the organisation in the UK not only is a charity, but it's involved with further organisations that possibly one of the people on the list has contacts within NATO.
What sort of evidence do you have to back up all this?
The evidence is with the undercover operative, as I say, which I've put you on to. That is how we all keep ourselves safe, because he is the person that when he decided to work undercover for many years, he got all this intelligence, which included social services, the police, certain people in MI6 and other organisations, Foreign Office. You've got to understand, he then had to get away because he knew his life was in danger, because one other person had already been blown up and his car gets blown up. Luckily for him, it's all online, by the way, you can see this with the Daily Mail. That operative has actually been blown up, but he was saved, thank God. It was only his arm and a small injury. Basically, I contacted a friend of mine through the NCA, and he spoke to me on the phone, and I said to him I was really heavily concerned with not putting this in through the front door because of the names on the list. And he said, leave it with me. He then contacted me back and said, somebody's going to come and see you. They're going to want you to write something in writing and sign to say that you've got this information, and they're going to want to know who's behind you, and then they're going to want to interview them. Nothing ever happened. Nothing. I then contacted my friend again, To which he said, very simply, I don't know what's going on here, why they're not contacting you. So he contacted the person again. The person did call me this time and said to me that they would be in touch. It was literally a 2-minute conversation, they'll be in touch. They never got in touch. So then I went through another source of mine that works for one of the big three. He spoke to somebody through the correct protocols, and they suggested that I went directly to the police. And he said, I am not sure if that's the right thing to do, because I think she's quite fearful for her life because of the names on the list, even though she's not got the evidence. To which I then put it through to the Gloucestershire police, because they have an undercover reporting team for trafficking. That team kept the intelligence for 2 weeks, and I was a bit sneaky. I set up a burner email account, but I included another email in it so I knew it hit them. They got it. They called me 2 weeks later, and the conversation went like this. Are you Mandy Smith? Yes, I am. You've sent us this information. How did you get my details? And I said, sorry, how did I get your details? Well, we want to know who you're speaking to. How have you got my details? And I said, well, shouldn't you be more saying, thank you for sending me such information? Is it verified? And how did you get such information of who's on this list? Because there's an MI6 operative's name on there. To which she said, are you suffering from mental health issues? And I said, why would you say that? Well, I'm just wondering if you are. And I said, no. I said, I work in an area where I pass information through to organisations like yourself when it could be a national security issue, which is obviously the safety of our country. So that's what I thought I was going to be doing. And I said, is this on the record that you think I've got mental health issues? And he said, there's nothing on the record, and put the phone down on me.